Good evening, and welcome to Nox Historia. Tonight, we travel to the world of Heian Kyoto. So put the day down. It has had everything from you that it was ever going to get, and it has no further claim on you now. Let your shoulders come away from your ears. Let your jaw go loose. Let the breath run long and low, because we are going to a city where hurrying was thought a little vulgar, and where the people we are visiting spent much of their lives sitting very still in dim rooms, listening. The light is going gold over a wide green basin ringed by low mountains. The air smells of cypress timber and cooking smoke, and underneath that, something sweet you cannot yet name. Come with me gently. We are traveling to Kyoto in Japan in the year 1000. Nobody here calls it Kyoto yet. Its name is Heian-kyō, the capital of peace and tranquility, laid out 206 years ago in 794, on the order of an emperor named Tonmu, who wanted a fresh page and a clean grid, and got both. They do not call this year 1000 either. By their reckoning, it is the second year of the Chōhō era, because years are counted from the naming of eras, not from any birth. The emperor on the throne is a quiet young man of 20 called Ichijō. The man who really decides things is a nobleman of 34 named Fujiwara no Michinaga, who has never held the office of regent and never will, and who runs the country anyway by the oldest method there is. He marries his daughters to emperors and waits to become somebody's grandfather. This very year, the court has done something with no precedent behind it at all. The emperor now has 2 empresses at once in 2 separate households, each with her own women, her own poets, her own weather. And here is something most people never learn about this place. Look down from the hillside and you will see a diagram, a perfect rectangle scored into the valley floor by dead straight streets, north to south, east to west, aligned to the compass with a precision that took an army of surveyors. Now look at the western half of it. It is thin. There are gaps in it, and stands of reed and rice paddies where city blocks were meant to be. That half of the capital was drawn beautifully and then quietly failed. The ground there was too low and too wet. Damp crept up into it from below, and people simply stopped moving in. By the middle of this century, a writer could describe it as derelict and mean it. The most orderly city ever planned in Japan is, at this moment, about half a city, leaning east. You do not need to remember any of this, not the names, not the dates, not one number. Let it go past you like smoke going up through still air. And if you happen to fall asleep before we reach the end, that is exactly what this is for. So let us begin. You come down out of the eastern hills in the last of the light, along a road worn soft by ox carts, with pines standing black against a sky the color of weak tea. The valley opens beneath you. There is no city wall to arrive at. That surprises people, because this whole city is a copy. The model was Chang'an, the vast capital of Tang China, and Chang'an was ringed by earth ramparts with gates that shut at dark and soldiers who counted you through them. Heian-kyō copied the streets, the offices, the ranks, the ceremonies, the shape of the palace. It did not copy the walls. There was nobody to keep out. So the capital lies open in its basin, edges fraying into fields, smoke rising straight from 10,000 kitchen fires, and you walk in the way you would walk into a village.
Come down now onto the great avenue
It is called Suzaku Oji, the Avenue of the Vermilion Bird. It runs like a spine from the palace gate in the north to the main gate of the city in the south, and it is about 84 meters wide. Stand in the middle of it at dusk, and the houses on either side are far away. Willows have been planted along its length. Every other street hangs off it at a right angle. The great avenues over 24 meters across, the small lanes about half that, dividing everything into blocks roughly 120 meters square, each walled with rammed earth capped in tile. Which means an address here is a coordinate, so many streets down, so many across, and you can find a house you have never visited from a set of numbers. People will still be doing that 1,000 years from tonight. The modern streets of Kyoto lie along these lines and still carry the counting in their names: 4th Avenue, 5th Avenue, 7th Avenue, exactly where they run tonight. The markets are closing for the day. There are 2 of them, one on either side of the great avenue, and they are government business, laid out by the state, watched by officials whose job is to check the measures and hold the prices steady. Walk the last of it in the low light. Bolts of hemp and silk, sacks of rice, salt, sea bream dried stiff as board, sheets of seaweed, coarse grey pottery, iron needles, writing brushes, lamp oil, sheaves of paper. Watch how anything is bought, though, and you notice the strange thing. Coins exist here, and hardly anybody wants them. The real money in this capital is rice and cloth. An official's salary arrives as fabric and grain, and a rich man's wealth sits in his storehouse in stacks you could sew into a coat. Half of this city was never really built, and you can feel it if you turn west. The lanes thin, the wall lines give out. Frogs start up somewhere in the dark, unhurried, in a field that was drawn on the plan as a residential block. The court's answer to a soggy western half was not to drain it, but to drift the other way. So the money and the mansions have crept north and east, outside the neat rectangle altogether. That drift is why the Kyoto that survives is the eastern one. The city you can walk through today is the half that stayed dry. Turn in now at a gate. The house we are visiting takes up a whole block of the grid, behind its own earthen wall, and inside it is arranged the way every great house here is arranged, a style later called shinden zukuri, building around the sleeping hall. The main hall sits in the middle, facing south. Long roofed corridors run east and west to smaller wings, and 2 more run south from those, ending in open pavilions. The whole thing stands raised on posts, a little above the earth. The wood is not painted. It is hinoki cypress, planed and left bare, and the roof is not tile, but cypress bark, laid in thick, soft layers and trimmed at the eave, so the roofline reads as a long, dark cushion rather than a hard edge. To the south, between the corridors, there is white sand raked flat, a pond with an island in it, a few pines and a maple. That garden is not decoration, it is the room where the season is kept. Step up onto the boards and inside, and the first thing to understand is that there are almost no walls. The hall is one great open floor under a forest of pillars. The outer edge is closed by shitomi, heavy lattice shutters hinged along the top, propped open all day and lowered at nightfall. Everything else is cloth. Blinds of split bamboo hang between the pillars. Folding screens stand where a corner is wanted, and everywhere there are kichō, curtain stands, a crossbar on a post with long panels of silk falling to the floor, which 2 people can carry and set down anywhere in 10 seconds. You do not build a room here, you assemble one, and you can take it apart again in a minute. Even the matting is portable, thick mats laid singly on the bare boards wherever somebody is going to sit, not spread wall to wall. And because the walls are cloth, so is privacy, and so is rank. A woman of the household speaks to a visitor through a blind, and perhaps a curtain behind that, and the number of layers of silk between 2 people says precisely who they are to one another. Warmth here arrives in a bowl. There is no fireplace in this house, no chimney, no hearth in the wall, only braziers, carried in and set down beside you, wooden tubs and glazed pots filled with pale ash, with a bank of charcoal in the middle, burning low and orange and almost without smoke. Somebody brings one when you sit, takes it away when you move, and tends it with iron chopsticks, folding ash over the embers to bank them. In winter, the servants come along the corridors at first light, carrying fire from room to room, and Sei Shōnagon, who is at court this year, thought that sight one of the finest things about a cold morning. The heat does not fill the house, it never could. It fills the space around one person, and everyone here grew up understanding that being warm is something you do locally, near a small fire, wrapped in a great deal of silk. The lamps are lit one at a time, and there are not many of them. A lamp is a shallow dish of oil pressed from perilla or sesame seed, with a rush wick lying in it, on a tall wooden stand, and it throws a soft orange circle about the size of a small table. Beyond that circle, the hall goes properly dark, in a way our rooms no longer do. And this darkness is timed. North of here, in the palace, an office of the government keeps a water clock, and men whose entire employment is the counting of hours mark the day and have it announced. The day is cut into 12, each part named for an animal, the hour of the rat, the ox, the tiger, each twice as long as an hour of hours. The calendar runs on the moon, so every month opens on the new moon, which means something rather beautiful. Everyone here can read the date off the sky. The 15th night is always the full one. And the same office that keeps the clock keeps the directions. The Bureau of Yin and Yang employs specialists called onmyoji, consulted about very nearly everything, because certain gods move about the compass on a fixed rotation, and while a god stands in a given direction, you do not travel that way. If your errand tomorrow lies northeast and northeast is closed, you go somewhere else first, out the evening before in a permitted direction, sleep the night at a cousin's house, and set off from there in the morning, having bent the line. It is called kata tagai, changing direction, and grown adults with serious responsibilities arranged their lives around it. There are also days marked for seclusion, when you stay behind lowered shutters and receive nobody at all. A cleared calendar, ordered by heaven. Not the worst idea anyone ever had. Supper comes on a low table, or rather on several, small-legged trays, one for each person, carried in already laid. There is rice, steamed white and heaped. Beside it, small dishes in a scatter, fish dried or salted, seaweed kept in salt through the season, nuts, a little fruit. Meat is largely absent, and has been for centuries, since Buddhist scruple and Imperial edict together pushed four-legged animals off the table. Fish and fowl are another matter. What is missing from these trays is seasoning. It is not cooked into the food at all. It arrives separately in its own small vessels, salt, vinegar, sake, and a thick fermented paste of grain and beans that is the ancestor of soy sauce and miso. And each person seasons their own bowl at the table every meal. There are 2 meals in a day here, not 3, and this is the second. Now consider what she is wearing, because in this court it is the most legible thing about a person. Under everything, wide crimson trousers and a plain robe. Over that, a series of silk gowns, one on top of another, each cut a little shorter and set a little back, so that at the wrist and at the hem, all of them show at once in a stack of narrow bands. The bands are the point. Each combination of colors has a name, and the names come from plants and weather. Plum, willow, wisteria, pine shoot, fallen leaves, ice underfoot, and each belongs to a particular stretch of the year. To wear the wrong one is to be wrong in public, in a way everyone can see and nobody will mention. Here is the correction worth making, though. You may have heard this outfit called Juni-hoe, the 12-layer robe. Nobody in this room has ever used that word. It is a name from later centuries, and the number was never 12. The count rose and fell with fashion and rank and season, and it climbed high enough that some 70 years from tonight the court will pass a law trying to hold it down to 5. 12 was a nickname that stuck to a thing already gone. There is paper in this house in quantities that would surprise you, and it is treated as a material with a personality. It is made from the beaten inner bark of the paper mulberry, and the thick, soft white sheets that come down from the northern provinces are prized above all others. There is paper dyed and paper flecked, paper heavy for formal occasions, paper thin enough to see a hand through. The ink comes as a hard stick of pine soot bound with glue, ground on a stone until it thickens. And what gets written with it is the reason we are still talking about these people. Official prose in this country is written in Chinese by men in a foreign language they have learned. Alongside it is kana, a phonetic script squeezed out of Chinese characters written fast, and kana is called onade, the women's hand, and is not considered serious. So the serious writing went one way, in a borrowed tongue, and the women wrote in their own language, in the script nobody respected, and produced the finest literature of the age. Sei Shōnagon is at court now, keeping the sharp, funny, ferociously observant notebook we call the Pillow Book. Within 5 or 6 years, a woman we know as Murasaki Shikibu will enter the service of Michinaga's daughter, and by the winter of 1008, the chapters of the Tale of Genji are being copied and passed around the palace faster than she can write them. And this is how we know it, not from monuments, but from paper. Michinaga's own diary survives, 14 scrolls in his handwriting, covering the years from 1998, kept in Kyoto to this day, the oldest diary in the world, still in the hand that wrote it. His own brush, his own crossing outs. Somewhere in the room, incense is warming. Not burning, warming. What they use here is takimono, kneaded incense, powdered aromatic woods, aloes wood and sandalwood and clove worked into a paste, rolled into small dark balls and left to mature until the parts stop being separate things. A ball sits on a censer over an ember buried in ash so it never catches and gives off scent slowly for hours. Everyone blends their own. Recipes are inherited, guarded, argued over, and courtiers hold contests to judge whose is best, which is exactly the sort of evening these people liked. Robes are hung over a frame and perfumed from beneath, so a person carries their blend with them, and in a house this dark you may know who has come along the corridor before you can see them. a signature written in air. And somewhere further off, from a hall south of the city, there is chanting, low, level, unhurried, a sutra being recited into the night by men who will still be at it when you are long asleep. The bed is a room inside a room. In the middle of the hall stands a curtained platform, a low dais a few mats wide with a canopy over it and silk hangings down all four sides, standing free on the open floor like a tent pitched indoors. You sleep on matting laid on the dais with a small hard pillow, and you sleep under your own clothes. The outer robes of the day come off and go straight over you as bedding, still holding their incense. Screens are set around. The shutters come down along the south side, and the house closes itself like a hand. Sei Shōnagon's book takes its name from the pillow, and one old guess is that such notebooks were kept there, within reach of the bed for whatever occurred to you in the dark. Some of the sentences that survive from this world were written by somebody lying more or less where you are lying now, at more or less this hour, with the lump nearly out. Step out onto the veranda before you sleep. The boards are cool. The sand in the south garden holds a little light. Above the roofline, the sky is enormous and completely unlit, and the moon comes up over the eastern hills with a clarity that makes people here stop what they are doing. They go out on the pond in a boat to look at it. They pass a night in the 8th month doing nothing but watching it and writing 31 syllables and handing the poems along. 18 years from tonight, Michinaga will sit at a banquet at the height of everything he ever wanted and say that the world feels like his, with nothing lacking in it, the way nothing is lacking in a full moon. He will be right for a while. And the only reason we have the line is that a rival of his, further down the room and not enjoying himself, went home and wrote it in his own diary, and that diary survived. So did the novel written by a woman in the household of that man's daughter, in the script nobody considered serious. 1,000 years on, it is the novel people know, and the empire of marriages is the footnote. The season is turning over out there in the dark, and everyone in this house knows exactly which one it is, because they have been dressing for it, burning it in the censer, and writing it into their letters all week. That is the whole art here, paying close attention to something that will not last, saying so gently and letting it go. They knew the moon would wane. They looked anyway. They wrote it down on good paper and sent it to someone they loved, and then they lowered the shutters and slept, as you, perhaps, are sleeping now. So let go of the last of it, whatever you are still holding. The city lies quiet in its rectangle, half-built and beautiful. The lamps are down to a thread. The braziers are banked under ash. Somewhere the water clock is counting the hour of the rat, and nobody is listening, and it does not matter. Sleep well, and when you are ready to travel again, Nox Historia will be waiting. Good night.